Let me begin with a caveat. While I speak about these 4 standards, which are the output standards, the entire series of 200, 300, 500, which you just heard, all these series are the input and processes. 700 is actually the output. So while I speak on these standards now, all of the views are my personal views. None of them should be seen as views of the council of the institute or any of the committees I am part of. So I'll spend a few minutes on the context. I won't spend much time, but I'll leave a copy of the slide deck behind. I'll leave a copy of the slide deck behind. And I would encourage you to go through the contents of the context later. And I will focus largely on the 4 standards and more specifically on SA 700 and 701. On 701, friends, it's a relatively new standard, and many have an impression that it's a standard for listed companies. But I would strongly encourage every chartered accountant auditing unlisted entities, including private limited companies, to use SA 701. Use SO 701. SO 701 is optional to an auditor other than listed entity. For listed, it's mandatory. Other than listed, it is optional. But it is a very, very powerful tool, high level of empowerment in the hands of the auditor for communicating the work which he has done. In fact, I sometimes envy why we did not have this category of reporting standards when we were doing your articleship, or even when I was in practice. I was in practice 1999 to 2007. The practice was largely template-based reporting. There was a very highly standardized template, and we used to report it. But thanks to SA 706 and now 701, both of those standards give so much to the auditor that you can make each audit report a speaking report. Each report can speak about the work which you have done. Audit report of client A and client B will be different. Audit report of 2 companies in the same industry can be different. So audit reports are no longer templatized. There is so much of opportunity to communicate what you have done, and that's a huge empowerment. And all of us have chosen this profession because it gives us an opportunity to exercise judgment and say what we want and say what we want. All of us obviously like freedom of expression, and here somebody is actually paying you to express your view. He's paying you to express your view. In fact, I recall Rahul Dravid used to tell, I get paid for enjoying what I do, what I play. Here you actually get paid for your freedom of expressing. So in terms of just setting the context, the entire 700 series is about reasonable assurance. And on a lighter note, when it comes to reasonable assurance, many times I've come across people feeling that I can be a little complacent about the reasonable assurance. Absolute assurance is like mother promise. Reasonable assurance, you can probably tell I've done my best to the extent of what I can do, I can give it. In a lighter sense, you have this on the left-hand side of the screen, which reads, we are reasonably sure management has done a reasonably good job at implementing reasonable controls that are reasonably effective.
MPP sir,
so reasonable assurance cannot go to that extent.
Screen is not visible, MPP sir.
Okay, screen is not visible. Eh?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, what to do? जस्ट सेकंड रंजित भाई, एक बार कोशिश करूंगा। अभी आ रहा है क्या?
Yeah, now it's coming. Now it's coming.
ठीक है। Let me minimize this. Oh yeah. So what I was referring to is on the left hand side of the slide. And from a setting the context perspective, these are some fundamentals which I have shared earlier in ERC programs, and I would like to reiterate it. For me, accounting profession covers both preparing financial statements as well as auditors. Preparers are different, but auditors are different. But both of them together constitute the universe of accounting profession. And accounting is all about accountability. And I love this profession largely because of this accountability. I put up a hand saying that I am responsible for this. Secondly, the financial statements, balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, all of them are a communication. Your audit report is also a communication. Just like you and I, in our personal life, expect communication we receive, whether we receive from our staff, from our friends, from our family. Every communication we receive, we want it to be truthful, we want it to be complete. On similar lines, what we communicate through financial statements and audit opinion should also be complete and truthful. And fundamental to our entire profession is that good accounting leads to good economics. Now, I'll quote our founder president, late Shri G.P. Kapadia, and his words way back in 1949. I'll quote two important lines from this, and I'll connect this with these 4 reporting standards. He talks about that every learned profession should develop a sense of social purpose and social obligation, and this should be more so in the case of accounting profession. He goes on to say that chartered accountant is a person on whom every member of the society can rely and rely strongly, and his certificate would be one by way of a seal and a hallmark which should inspire confidence in the minds of all concerned, as certificates by a person fully competent and holding a charter from supreme legislature of the country. So every time a person signs an audit report, if these 2 lines are remembered, I'm sure the quality of audit will improve. Several other aspects surrounding the in the environment now, which makes audit quality more important. I'll just highlight 2-3 points. I'll not talk about all of them. Just for your information, until couple of years back, Quality Review Board used to review only listed companies, but now they review unlisted companies as well. Second, since the last few months, IBBI, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, has started referring the companies which have gone through IBC process, those financial statements to FRRB. Just imagine, and I'm sure all of you can connect, almost all the IBC cases up to 31st March 2000, let us say 2018, auditor said going concern. He signed the report in August or September, and November or December it's gone to IBC. So it cannot happen like that. So there is some professional gap, some delivery gap somewhere. So IBC has started referring. And in this context of COVID, going concern, impairment, all that stuff, I would strongly urge, be extremely careful in issuance of audit report. Second is, given the kind of improvements around technology, while audit standards still recognize sampling, the regulatory environment has started ignoring the concept of sampling and says that you had the ability of reviewing the whole population. The audit standards internationally are also getting revised, but even within India, without the standards getting revised, people have this expectation. Lastly, the audit opinion, and we will see it few minutes from now, is an opinion that financial statements have been prepared in accordance with the financial reporting framework, which means everything in financial statement is as per the requirements of either accounting standards or Ind AS, as the case may be. And as auditors, you are giving a assurance on that. So the depth of knowledge one needs to have on those standards, I'll just leave it there for your judgment. Now, there's a few slides I will skip, but I'm going to give this copy to you for you to get an idea. These are basically the findings of Quality Review Board on the reviews of listed company financial statements. And in a sense, if listed company seriousness of audits done is like this, then what does it mean to the whole population, whole universe? Where are we? So that's what we need to take the message out of this. So we'll focus on these 4 reporting standards. All of them got revised effective 1st April 2018. And the reason why it got revised effective that date was introduction of SA 701. Consequent to SA 701, there were consequential amendments in 700, 705, and 706. And in fact, this just reminds me again. Ranjit, I keep talking to him. Maybe I've not been so explicit to him in person. Even when this 701 was introduced, we were supposed to make it mandatory initially from 1st April 2017. Then we postponed it by a year, and there was a lot of people who are saying, why don't we postpone it by another year? And I still recall Ranjit, and I sit a little bit of a distance physically in the council, no specific reason, just that there are certain seats we get habituated to sit. I still recall he was one of those who said, no, we have committed to the stakeholders at large that we will do it 17. We have already done it 18 and no more. And this standard is coming. Many people objected to 701 without an understanding that 701 is actually empowerment to the auditor. It's not duty to the auditor. It's actually empowerment to the auditor. It's a huge tool. It's a very, very powerful tool to communicate. In fact, sometimes when I look at this, I can't imagine we have done audits so many years without a standard like 701. So what is it? I'll share with you as we progress. There are few acronyms which are used in this deck for you to refer when you refer this deck. But as I walk you through, obviously, I will expand on the full form. As I mentioned, I'll spend a substantial amount of my time on SA 700 and on 701. I'll go a little slowly. For many of you, it might appear that SA 700 has been there for a long time. हमें पता है, I think Joshi ji was mentioning it. So हमें पता है, हम तो कर रहे हैं and all. But I will also show with you a few examples, live cases of reasonably large companies, large audit firms, and the kind of mistakes which happen in the audit report. And I will leave it to your judgment whether, as a member of this body, those mistakes should be pardoned, ignored, and all, or should we take more stringent action so that quality of the profession goes up. I will leave it to your judgment after I show you those live cases. So this standard SA 700 deals with the auditor's responsibility to form an opinion on financial statement. So having done the work using 200 series planning, 300 series around internal controls and all that stuff, 500 series around audit evidence. So having walked through 200, 300, 500, as an auditor, I have traveled that journey. I have to now, there's a responsibility on me to form an opinion. So I can't keep on doing work. I should somewhere conclude and tell, this is my opinion. So this standard puts that responsibility on auditor to give the opinion. It gives the form and content of the audit report. This standard deals only with unmodified opinion, what people popularly call it as clean opinion. The technical terminology is unmodified, but colloquially we all call it as a clean opinion. Modified opinion is dealt with in SA 705. 3 types of modifications are there. We'll come there. And in the audit report, which is issued under SA 700, you get to issue or highlight some matters called emphasis of matters, some called other matters, for which you have SA 706. There are audits of special purpose financial statements. So like, for example, financial statements prepared for an acquisition purpose, or there can be audits of a single financial statement, only P&L to be audited, only balance sheet to be audited, or there can be an audit of an element of financial statement. So somebody appoints me to audit only receivables. So for these cases, there are separate standards called 800 and 805. 800 is for special purpose financial statements. So that whole set of financial statements. 805 for auditing a statement, only P&L, only balance sheet, only cash flow, or an element in the financial statement. That's covered by 805. And the objective of this standard is to have a report which people across the world, users across the world, can read it in a consistent form. They will know that audit opinion always comes at the first, responsibility comes later. So it promotes a consistency. Otherwise, people will write all over the place, and it's a comparative format. In fact, just for all of your information, I'm sure you are aware, unlike in the case of Ind AS, which is converged with IFRS, and it's almost the same, where people still feel Ind AS and IFRS some emotional issues in accepting. As far as our 46 audit standards are concerned, ever since the Clarity project of 2009, every single standard is a copy paste of the corresponding international standard on auditing. There are standards like joint audit. There are use of work of another auditor where there are gaps, but otherwise the 200 series, 300 series, 500 series, and now 700 series which you're discussing. Each auditor of Siliguri, Guwahati, Kolkata, Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, the standard which you apply is exactly the same, which is applied all over the world. There's nothing like IFRS and US GAAP also. It is the same standard which is applied, whether it is for a company as large as IBM, which is almost like a 3 lakh crore turnover, or a company as small as 10 lakh rupees turnover. Is the same set of standards which we have. Thanks again to our institute, we have taken up with IAASB at IFAC for looking at a separate set of standards for what we call small and less complex entities. This is a terminology all of you are familiar in the context of IFC. So that project is on. For the first time, the credit goes only to India and Institute, that IAASB is pursuing some research on can we have a separate set of standards. So just to come back, these standards are consistent, comparative globally. Now, this standard 700, the objective is to guide an auditor to form an opinion on the financial statement based on the evaluation of conclusions drawn from audit evidence, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Whatever audit evidence related standards you've gone through, from there you have to draw conclusions. And friends, I want to caution you here. Like Joshiji talked about that written representations. Written representation is equivalent to a toilet paper unless there is an evidence that as an auditor, I have evaluated the contents of written representation. I'm convinced on its contents, and there is evidence in your working papers there that these representations, I've used it for forming an opinion. So I have come across in QRBN where people tell I have written representation file. That will not help you at all. You should have evidence of the fact that I have drawn conclusion from the audit evidence. I have drawn conclusion. So how did I draw conclusion from audit evidence? That is extremely important. So I need to form an opinion, and opinion is in mind, and I have to express it clearly through a written report. Clearly through a written report, no ambiguity. That also describes the basis of opinion. So I have to form opinion based on the audit evidence which I evaluate. I should have evidence that I evaluated, and it helped me come to this conclusion. And that conclusion, I have to express it clearly, no ambiguity, through a written report, and also describe the basis of forming the opinion. as to whether, what is the opinion about? As to whether the financial statements prepared in all material respects, that word material is important, I'll spend time later, in all material respects is in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. We have what is called fair presentation framework. All of us actually work on that. And there are two frameworks all of us have, or rather three frameworks, three frameworks. One is the accounting standards issued by the institute applicable to non-corporate entities. That is one framework. Second is Companies Accounting Standards Rules 2006, applicable to a good number of companies. Third is Companies Accounting Standards Rules, Indian Accounting Standard Rules 2015. So you are giving an opinion that these financial statements are aligned to one of these three frameworks which is applicable. One of these three frameworks. These are three fair presentation frameworks which we have in the country, and your audit report should draw reference to which framework you have used it. And for forming this opinion, he needs to come to a conclusion as to whether he has a reasonable assurance that financial statements as a whole, individually here and there, little up and down may be there, as a whole, are free from material misstatements, frauds and errors. So that's the objective of SA 700. So as far as SA 700 goes, you have the scope which I just articulated. An auditor to express an unmodified opinion, which I just talked about. And as I told you, there are two frameworks. Fair presentation framework, which is what all of us use. And fair presentation framework are three types. Standards issued by institute for non-corporate entities, or Companies Accounting Standard Rule 2006, or Companies Ind AS Rules 2016. That is fair presentation framework. Then there is called compliance framework. These are frameworks where a specific legal requirement, you may be required to prepare financial statements in a particular format. Let's say a liquidation case, you have to prepare. That is called compliance framework. So what you and I do on a daily basis is fair presentation framework. And for that, the wordings have to be that accompanying financial statements give a true and fair view of balance sheet, income statement, cash flow in accordance with this or this or this. There are three frameworks. And please note, there are many who use this expression called Indian GAAP. Please note, all the three are Indian GAAP. Institute standard is Indian GAAP. Company Standard Rules 2006 is Indian GAAP. Ind AS is also Indian GAAP. Many have their own view that Ind AS is a foreign one. No, that is also Indian GAAP. So you have to refer to one of these three frameworks. Now, how does the auditor evaluate to conclude on reasonable assurance? The standard gives a beautiful guidance on how do you go and conclude. First and foremost, financial statements, are they adequately disclosing the significant accounting policies? Second, consistency and appropriateness of accounting policies with the financial reporting framework. So these policies, are they aligned with the financial reporting framework? Just as a matter of caution, I've come across cases where people think disclosure of an accounting policy which is not in line with the financial reporting framework. Financial reporting framework means standards. There are three frameworks I told you. So there are many who have this impression that I gave the policy and I did according to policy. I disclosed it. You are still guilty. That policy should be consistent with the financial reporting framework. Reasonableness of accounting estimates, qualitative characteristics of relevance, reliability, comparability, and understandability of information in financial statements. I'll spend a minute on this. I have heard it enough, and sometimes it's tiring also. People tell there are audit standards, accounting standards, and all which are there. The preparer is using it, the auditor is using it. Make it life easy for us. Make it life easy for preparer, easy for the auditor. I want to make it loud and clear. The end purpose of financial statements is for the users. That is, we have in accounting standards a term called primary users, investors, creditors, lenders. So when we do standard setting, the entire focus is on the user. It is not on preparer. It is not on preparer. So don't have a wrong expectation. It leads to disappointment. So whenever something is said in a standard or disclosure requirement is there in a standard, it is not meant for preparer. It is difficult for preparer, but the objective is the user in mind. They're all drafted keeping only user in mind. Now, as far as this user is concerned, I'll give a very small example. I keep giving this everywhere. A personal example, like when you cook food. Cooking food with hygiene is a complex process. It's not easy. If you have to cook it with nice hygiene, wash every dish, take it cleanly, take the items with all dust removed, etc. It's not so easy. You can experience it when your mother cooks food versus you cooking food. You will see that quality difference, that hygiene. Preparing is difficult, but the preparation is done in a hygienic manner because as a mother, I'm concerned my child should have palatable food, hygienic food. That concern is there. That is why that focus on hygiene. Same thing applies for standards as well. They're all prepared only keeping in mind the user. Is this information relevant to user? Preparer has to stand head upside down, doesn't matter. But if it is important for user, it shall be given. So understandability of information, you have to always see whether a user is in a position to understand. And disclosures are adequate to enable users to understand effect of material transactions or events on information in financial statement. For example, there was a merger, there was a demerger, there's a discontinuation of operations. So you should make enough disclosures which will help users to understand the effect of those material transactions. So people keep asking, why should I disclose discontinuing operations? Yes, for a user, it's important. As a user, I want to know if this operation is not there, what is life tomorrow? I want to know. So that disclosure is required. Terminology used in financial statement is appropriate. Standards give you freedom of choosing, but the terminologies should be relevant. Financial statement should give reference to the applicable framework. Financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with applicable framework. Qualitative aspects of accounting practices and possible bias in management judgment, whether it is relating to receivables provisioning, whether it is relating to depreciation, useful life. So all those qualitative aspects, as an auditor, I should be concerned, I should be convinced. materiality of uncorrected misstatements individually or aggregate. So there could be some mistakes here and there. So how is it material individually or aggregate put together? I'm sure all of us, when we sign, I have signed for 10 years and I know that there are some mistakes here and there, but individually or aggregate, is it material? And there's guidance available in SA 450. And we have got sufficient and appropriate evidence for forming a view on all of this. Then you conclude on reasonable assurance and issue the audit opinion. This is the entire path. So as a signing partner, when I sit and sign, I have to go through this entire flow chart before I can sign off and give that audit opinion. So 2018, we had this audit report structure, which was changed. And the change was one, to accommodate introduction of key audit matters. But I would like to highlight a couple of other important changes. And all of us will agree, excellence is a journey. It's only a journey. Look at the third point on the right side. The title of audit report earlier was Report on Financial Statement, but it was rectified, corrected to say it is a report on the audit of the financial statement. So it's a report I give on the audit of the financial statements. So it's a journey. So that's an improvement. Second is, earlier there was information captured only with reference to management responsibility. But we all know that in organizations, there are the set of people called those charged with governance. If you take the context of board of directors of a company, so they're all charged with governance. So they also need to be made responsible. It's not just the CEO and CXO level, but those people who have been given the responsibility of governance. Look at our own Companies Act. I recall way back in 1998 itself, in the director's report, those days, I think section 217, I don't remember now, I think 217, there used to be a director's responsibility statement where directors have to give a responsibility statement for things: complied with accounting standards, going concern, etc., etc. If any director actually reads those 4 lines and signs, quality will automatically improve. But many just sign it as a matter of routine. And that audit director's responsibility has been brought inside the audit report template. So there are these 14 elements which are there now. As far as the form of opinion is concerned, this standard essentially deals with unmodified opinion. Modified opinion is dealt with by SA 705. We'll spend time on that. Modified opinion arises in 2 situations where it is not free from material misstatements, or there is no sufficient and applicable appropriate evidence is not there. And depending on whether it is pervasive or not pervasive, it's qualified, adverse, or disclaimed will come later. And in this form of opinion, the financial statements are to be prepared as per fair presentation framework. And if a fair presentation is not achieved, you need to discuss with management and then see whether you have to modify the opinion or how the matter can be resolved. But in the context of a compliance framework is more rigid, rule-based. Fair presentation is more principle, judgment. In the case of a compliance framework, there is no need to see whether everything is fairly given. And if you believe that the information is not correct or it's misleading, then take up a conversation on how to give a disclaimer or avoid that particular reporting. Elements of the audit report. You have these 14 elements which are there. I'll spend time on 4 of them. The notes for remaining is available in the slide deck, but interest of time, I'll spend time on 4 of them. The remaining content is available in the deck. You can go through later. First is on going concern. Wherever it's applicable, audit report should cover reporting on going concern as per SA 570. 2 scenarios are identified. Scenario A, going concern basis is not appropriate, but financial statements are prepared as per going concern. So management is preparing as per going concern. As an auditor, I feel it is not correct. Those cases you have to give an adverse opinion. This adverse opinion requirement comes from SA 570, not from 705. It's from 570. The second scenario, scenario B, B1, B2. Scenario B, going concern is appropriate, but there is a material uncertainty. 31st March 21, to the extent I can see, going concern is appropriate, but given the way the economy is shrinking, there's a material uncertainty which exists. That situation, B1, B2. B1, if the management is disclosing in financial statements, good boy, management is disclosing that we prepared as per going concern, but impact of COVID or a fire accident in factory or a big litigation on us or an environment case on us, there is a probability our going concern might get affected, and I've made a disclosure. Then give an unmodified opinion. Give an unmodified opinion and add a separate section drawing attention to that material uncertainty. Look at how speaking the audit report is. Many have this impression it is a template. It's a copy paste kind of template. No. Every paragraph, every line in the audit report. In fact, audit report now, if you take along with IFC and with CARO and all, it's like 30-page document. Every page, every para, every line is a speaking. It speaks, it communicates. So if it's disclosed in financial statements, unmodified opinion, but in the audit report, you draw reference to the material uncertainty. Second scenario, B2. Going concern is appropriate now, and there is a material uncertainty. Management is not disclosing. Then give a qualified or an adverse opinion as appropriate. So that's on going concern. Second, responsibilities of management for financial statements. So this information has to be captured in the audit report. And I would strongly recommend, and I have experience of my own practice when I used to do, and I've seen when I am on the board of companies, auditors coming and doing it. Many of us hesitate to spend that 7-8 minutes in reading the whole audit report in a board meeting, particularly with the online meetings happening and getting recorded. I'd strongly encourage that you read the whole audit report so that the directors are listening and they understand that there is that responsibility with them. So preparing financial statements in accordance with the financial reporting framework and for internal control is with the management, and they are also giving an assertion that it is free from material misstatement. It's not just the auditors, management is also giving it. And second, the entity's ability to continue as a going concern and whether the use of going concern is appropriate, and where required, like what we saw, an appropriate disclosure. So these responsibilities are part of the audit report. It will come inside the body of the audit report. Auditor's responsibility for audit of financial statement. Busy slide, but please note all of this content comes inside the audit report. Two parts here. One is you need to give the fact that you got reasonable assurance that financial statements are free from material misstatement, and as part of it make the following assertions. One, reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance but is not a guarantee that an audit will detect all the material misstatements. Second, misstatements can arise from a fraud or error and they are considered material if individually or in aggregate they could reasonably influence the economic decisions of users. So you basically define what constitutes misstatements. And you also tell that the auditor is exercising professional judgment and maintains professional skepticism throughout the audit. The auditor communicates with those charged with governance, among other matters, the plan, audit plan, scope and timing of the audits and significant audit findings. And he is also communicating that he is complying with all the relevant ethical requirements. And in the same audit report, you also need to identify, state the following, that you have identified and assessed the risk of material misstatement. For me, SA 315 is the heart of audit. SA 315, obtain an understanding of internal controls which are relevant to audit and to design the appropriate audit procedures. And that as an auditor, I've evaluated the appropriateness of accounting policies, reasonableness of accounting estimates. Recall that flow chart which I walk you through and related disclosures. That flow chart is this paragraph number 2-3. And I'm concluding on the appropriateness of management's use of going concern base of accounting and based on evidence, whether there is a material uncertainty and if so, how the same has been dealt with. Other reporting responsibilities. In the audit report, you have this requirements of reporting under section 143 subsection 3. You have that A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H item that they're as per books of account, etc., etc. All that reporting. Requirements of CARO 2016 and enjoy up to 31st March 21. Financial year 21-22 onwards, life is a different CARO, far different from what we have lived so long. And there could be other reporting requirements, like in the case of audit of banks, the Banking Companies Regulation Act, section 30, requires you to give some assertions like prepaid as per books of account and all, which is similar to our 143.3. So all of these are given under a separate heading called report on other legal and regulatory requirements. Other elements of audit report. Title should clearly indicate that it's report of an independent auditor. Address it to whom you are giving. Auditor's opinion, 2 paragraphs. 1 paragraph, identify entity, identify all the financial statement, balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, identify. Second paragraph, unmodified opinion, give reference to which framework it is being used. The basis for forming opinion, other information. I'll spend a minute on this. This is an area which is very highly neglected. SA 720. All of us know that financial statements are part of an annual report. director's report, etc., etc., whatever other information. There's a responsibility cast on the auditor that all the other information in audit report, in the annual report, there is nothing which is inconsistent with what is there in financial statements. Ranjit and I would have come across multiple cases where director's report will tell that so-and-so company is a joint venture. But if you look at the balance sheet, that investment, they will not show it as joint venture, or they would not have consolidated. So these kind of conflicts, you will come across multiple conflicts. So it is responsibility of auditor to collect a copy of the director's report or draft director's report and then ensure that there is nothing inconsistent. That responsibility is with auditor. I should ask. You should not wait for company to give, you should ask. And it should be form part of a file. And as a signing partner, when you sign, you should say that if this paragraph, this paragraph, this paragraph is tallying, there's nothing inconsistent. If something inconsistent, it is negligence. And please note, some cases, the director's report is prepared after the audit report is issued. Public sector organizations, there's a separate board meeting 2 weeks or 3 weeks later. And if such a director's report, there is an inconsistency, SA 560, subsequent events, puts a responsibility on auditor. If he comes to know that there is something in the director's report which is issued 2 weeks later, which is inconsistent, you have to go and withdraw your audit report before the annual meeting. That responsibility is on you. And in SA 720, there are 7 illustrations, 7 illustrative formats of how SA 720 reporting should come. Then there are other reporting requirements or signature, place, etc., illustrative formats. So these are all some live examples. Interest of time, I'll skip. But let me show you one thing. Just look at this slide. This is of a listed company and a fairly established audit firm. Look at this template, bank audit, joint auditors, bank audit. It says in the case of P&L of the profit stroke loss for the year. It's a copy paste. So when you do a review, sometimes you think maybe this year profit, last year loss. No. But in this case, both years was a profit. But the audit report, partner who assigns central statutory auditor, people fight so hard to build credentials to become a central statutory auditor. And after becoming central statutory auditor, you can't spend time to go through that report, that pages you are signing, and then sign also. You can't even read that. Same mistake, CA final student, he would have been given 0 and come again to the exam. But here, look at the reputational damage to the profession. Reputational damage to the profession. Central statutory auditor, joint audit, public sector bank. This is how report is signed. It doesn't affect the true and fair, but look at the quality. And also like this, there are many errors. Interest of time, I'm skipping. All these are live examples of cases. Now, let me now move to SA 705. I want to spend some time on 701. 705, this is a standard from 2012, but revised in 2018. 705 is about issuing a modified opinion to situations based on the audit evidence, SA 500 series, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Based on that 5:30 to 6:30 p.m., if you are coming to a conclusion, think of that flow chart, concluding that it is not free from material misstatement, modified opinion, or I'm unable to get sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Sufficient appropriate, very relevant audit evidence to conclude that it is free from material misstatement. If either of these is there, then you have to modify your opinion. Modified opinions, 3 types: qualified, adverse, disclaimer. Disclaimer, strictly speaking, is not an opinion. Disclaimer means I'm not telling anything. I'm not telling anything. To hell with you, I'm not telling anything. The decision for modified opinion is based on whether the matter concerned is materially misstated or unable to get sufficient appropriate evidence, plus auditor's judgment on pervasiveness of the same. Pervasiveness means, is it across multiple elements in the financial statements? Is it affecting one item, or it's spread out? Is it spread out? It's like cancer, has it spread out, or is it only to my finger which I cut off? So that judgment is required. So this is a very simple table which can be kept in mind. And I have come across many cases where people have given modified opinion where they should have given an unmodified opinion. Unmodified opinion. They think by giving modified, I'm discharging my responsibility. No. Giving a modified opinion without these situations is also wrong. And many circumstances where adverse has to be given, people give qualified. Where qualified has to be given, they give adverse. Those situations also come. The logic is very simple, very, very simple. Material misstatement, not pervasive, then qualified. But if it is pervasive, adverse. Unable to obtain audit evidence, not pervasive, qualified, pervasive, disclaim. For example, receivables, confirmation of balance and all, I'm not able to get, I'm not satisfied at all. Then qualified. But I don't have evidence relating to inventory, capitalization of assets, revenue booking, multiple elements. Then go to disclaimer. So financial statements, materially misstatement, not pervasive, qualified. Pervasive, adverse. Inability to obtain evidence, not pervasive, only receivable, only inventory, qualified. Pervasive, I am not giving an opinion at all. I am disclaiming, I am not giving an opinion. And this subsequent slides basically explain how this entire process works. I have been skipping them except a couple of slides which I will walk you through. As far as this material misstatement of financial statements are concerned, 3 categories of reasons. Appropriateness of selected accounting policies. Whether policies selected are as per the framework, whether the notes to accounts are capturing and all. So as far as policies are concerned, I strongly recommend, please do not draft accounting policy in your own language. Preferably borrow the language as used in the standard. I just want to give you an assurance, in a standard, every word is debated and it takes the shape of a standard after several years of consultative process. And there is a meaning. For example, lower of cost or realizable value. Lower of cost and realizable value, there's a difference. Permanent long-term investments, permanent investments, long-term investments. Lower of cost and make provision, carried at cost, make provision if there is a diminution other than temporary. Many write permanent diminution. There's a difference in each of these. So borrow exactly the same language. Then applying the accounting policies. Are you applying it consistently? Inconsistent application, again, modification. Disclosures. As far as financial information is concerned, inadequate disclosures, inappropriate disclosures also affect a user's understanding. They will also go for qualification. Many people think disclosures are so and so, doesn't matter, we need not qualify, but that is not true. Auditor unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. The standard gives three situations. One is circumstances beyond control of the entity. For example, fire accident, books are destroyed. Government has seized the books of account and gone. They are beyond my control. I don't have evidence. There can be some situations where the timing of auditors work. Typically, this is a problem. We all struggle with the bank audits and all, hardly 3 days, 5 days. So there could be situations where I'm not getting enough time to verify the inventories, or there's a branch audit, material branches are there. I'm not getting time to do the audit. Or there can be limitations imposed by management. Management is preventing you from doing certain things. So they're telling, don't write confirmation of balance to these customers. They're telling this inventory cannot be verified, don't go. This fiscal cannot be verified. So if you come under these three categories, they are audited, they come under the inability to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Pervasive nature. How do you conclude whether it is pervasive? Pervasive nature is, look at the bottom part of the slide, and that's where auditor's judgment is required. One is, it is not confined to specific element or account or item. It's multiple. There can be instances where it is confined to a single item, but the single item is 80% of your balance sheet. I'm a trading organization. My only asset is inventory, and that inventory you are not allowing me to verify at your warehouse. So single element also is pervasive if that amount is substantial. And in relation to disclosures, they are not adequate. So pervasiveness, please note, usually means multiple elements, but there can be case where it belongs to a single element, but that single element is a huge number. So those are auditor's judgment that I didn't have evidence and I believe it is pervasive. Then I decide whether it's adverse or disclaiming. So scope limitation illustration is there. I'll skip these slides. So in the opinion section, when you give your modified opinion, qualified adverse disclaimer, you should explain why qualified, why adverse, give reference to amount in financial statements, how disclosures are misstated, what is not disclosed, how there is a limitation in doing some part of the audit. All those needs to be given. Just interest of time and skipping, but I guess you get the essence of what needs to be done. Qualified opinion, illustrative wording, two situations. And please do not write your own words. I humbly request, please don't draft in your own words. 700, 705, 706, 720, 570, give wordings. So here in the auditor's opinion, except for the effect of matters described, it gives a true and fair view. This is for material misstatement in financial statement. If it is relating to evidence, in the auditor's opinion, except for the possible effect of so and so, so and so and so, described in basis of opinion, this is how it is. Similarly, you have wording requirement for adverse opinion, which is there. Disclaimer, I don't give an opinion, and it just tell that I am not able to form an opinion. And we'll discuss this when we come to 701 also. A disclaimer of opinion, if it is there, the question of CAM does not arise, because in a disclaimer, I'm not even giving a report at all. And illustrative formats are available in SA 705. Material misstatement, two formats are there. Inability to obtain evidence. You have qualified disclaimer situations are also given. SA 706 also, I'll try to be a little quick. Emphasis of matter and other matters. Here again, I come across two sets of practices. One, there are some auditors who give a huge list of emphasis of matters, and they think that by giving reference to note number 27, note number 32, note number 47, note number 52 of financial statements, I am protected. Sorry, no. Emphasis of matter, you have to apply lots of judgment in selecting what should come in emphasis of matter. Laundry list is not expected. If there's too many items of emphasis of matter, most likely it's a case of modified opinion. So where you should give a modified opinion and not a emphasis matter. And if some matter is qualifying as key audit matter, then it will not come as an emphasis of matter. So emphasis of matter is basically for those matters which are already there in financial statements, notes to accounts. So an audit report I tell, refer note 12, note 77, note 32. Other matters are those which are not in the financial statements. But I, as an auditor, believe that the user should know. I believe the user should know. So as far as, let's say, the scope of work done, I want to communicate to the members, I can do it. I can do it. So those kind of provision exists in 706. And illustrative formats are available in the standard. Now let me come to SA 701. Maybe I'll cross a little over 8 o'clock. Please bear with me. This again is a exhaustive deck, but my view, one of the best things to happen as far as the audit reporting is concerned. In fact, I'm now in industry, but many times I feel how I wish I was actually practicing and signing audit reports and enjoying the benefit of communicating through these opportunities which are there. This is one of the first key audit matters which came in public domain when the SA 701 became mandatory. This is for Container Corporation of India, a public sector organization. So in this case, the auditors added a key audit matter saying that this company has so much receivables from the government. We believed it is a very material amount. We did so and so procedures, and we got convinced in this manner, and they brought it up in the key audit matter. So for the users, whether it's a bank who is lending money or investor, everybody knows that auditors identified this receivable as an important receivable, and he has performed these procedures, which I think is also correct, and he has concurred with the management's assessment. So that's a communication. That's a communication. And this particular standard 701, ISA 701, which we call as SA 701, it came up after extensive research and outreach, considering increased expectation of users of financial statements to have insight of an audit. The user wants to know, guys, what are you guys doing? You guys say you're doing so much work. Tell me, what have you done? At least important things tell me. Let me know what you've done. So that expectation. As they said earlier, all these standards are only keeping user in mind. And please note, your and my bread and butter is also based on being relevant to the user. If the user finds audit irrelevant, financial statement irrelevant, then we have no job to do. So for us, customer is king, and customer is a user of financial statement, not the client who is appointing us and paying the financial state fee. The need to enhance quality of audit and relevance of audit to stay relevant, and increased complexities in financial reporting framework, particularly take something like Ind AS and all. It's generally considered to be complex. And this year, Ranjit Bhai has been helping me a lot in leading study groups on developing some future important standards like rate regulated entities. I don't know, some slip of tongue, some weaker moment, he said, I'm ready to give time for ASB to do some work. I immediately caught on to it. And so far, I've given him 2 major responsibilities, and I'm very thankful to him for the help he's giving me in those study groups. So benefits of this SA 701, which is ISA 701, these are not identified by me. This is not my identification. This is from IFAC, IAASB, International Audit Assurance Standard Board. They've said this standard will have 5 benefits. And in the last 2 years since it has been there, the 5 benefits are highly visible. Increased transparency, provide a basis for user to engage with the management. I'm a lender, banker. I'm a financial investor. I'm a FII. I'm a mutual fund. I can get into a conversation with management and tell, look, your auditor has identified these 3 key audit matters. I want to understand more. It gives a basis for engaging. Increased attention to disclosure. It brings greater focus on the auditor, because every audit report is different. So everyone wants to know, what is it this guy has reported? What is he reported for this company? And it enhances the communicative value of audit report. And this is some statistics out of CAMs reported country by country, industry by industry, number of CAMs and all areas where CAMs are reported, key audit matters, impairment, revenue, provision for bad debts, goodwill. So there's a list. I'll leave this deck with you. Ideally, I would have loved to walk you through this, but interest of time, I'll skip it. This is based on the Nifty companies. The first year when CAM came into existence, for these 50 companies of Nifty, there were 31 cases of CAM relating to tax matters, 27 relating to related revenue issues, 23 relating to goodwill and intangibles, so on and so forth. Typically, these are the areas where auditor tells this is a key audit matter. Look at your own audit experience. As a signing partner, eventually bulk of my time goes into areas like this and this previous. It's a busy slide, but it gives you a list of issues which normally are the key audit matters. Now, sector wise and all the data is there for you to see later. Now, coming to this SA 701. This standard is applicable for audit of complete set of general purpose financial statements and not for branch and all. Branch audits are not general purpose financial statement. These are applicable only for the complete set of general purpose financial statements. Mandatory from 2018 for listed companies. For unlisted entities, including private limited companies, auditor can voluntarily give, and I would encourage you, particularly COVID time, going concern, impairment, I would encourage you. And management can also request the auditor. I can also request the auditor and tell, look, guys, you did the audit. I think you spent so much time on this. Please tell the outside world how you got satisfied on my litigation matters. How you got satisfied on my loss provisioning? How you got satisfied on my impairment? Tell the outside world. While people will trust me, if you also tell, people will get more confidence. Please tell. So as a management, I can also request the auditor to give key audit matter. And key audit matters are those which in the professional judgment of auditor are matters of most significance in that current audit period. And please note, key audit matters does not require separate audit work to be done. We are already required to communicate to those charged with governance. So when I go to audit committee, I make a presentation of, let us say, 12 issues, example, 12 issues. I should select key audit matters only out of the 12. I can't take a 13th one, no. So out of those which I'm communicating to audit committee, I should select based on my judgment what is very high priority. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number of items. So you need to select out of that. So this is how the funnel operates. Matters communicated with those charged with governments, 12 items. Matters that required significant audit retention, signing partner, I spent time on 8 items. Out of 8 items, most significance user should know is 3 items. Example, that 3 will become your key audit matter. This is how the funnel will get filtered. And key audit matters will come from these 3 buckets. This is again a very important slide. It will come from 3 buckets. 1, areas of higher risk of material misstatement or significant risk identified as per SA 315. From controls perspective, what are those areas of very high risk you have to identify? Second is effect of significant events or transactions. So in the current period, there was a merger, there is a demerger. So that or capitalization of a new factory or transition to Ind AS, whatever it is. So those are significant events. So that can be a key audit matter. Third is significant auditor judgment in respect of areas where management has applied a judgment. Management applied judgment in provision for bad debts, impairment. So those judgment, I am sitting on judgment. So the matters of key audit matter can come only from these 3 buckets. From these 3 buckets, these 3 will form part of those, in our example, 12 items. So out of that, you have to filter it. So how to identify? The standard gives guidance on how to shortlist them. And this is a single page slide from IASB. In one slide, they have explained the whole SA 701. What the standard requires is, in the main audit report, with a heading called key audit matters, below the audit opinion, you have to give why the matter was considered to be significant. Auditor cannot blindly pick up and tell, I'll report in key audit matters. No, he has to tell why he believes it is a key audit matter. And second, how he got convinced, what procedures he followed and how we got convinced. And please note, for listed companies, if there are no key audit matters, the auditor has to give a separate sentence that there are no key audit matters. So not an easy job. So if there are no key audit matters, he has to give an assertive statement. In my view, there are no key audit matters. That is for listed companies. Now, as I told you, this has to come immediately below the basis for opinion section of the audit report. And if there is no key audit matter, if it's a listed company, you have to still report it. And key audit matter, let us say our example, there are 3 key audit matters. The standard so beautifully tells, give a heading for each key audit matter. Tax related matter, revenue related matter, receivable related. You have to give a heading. You can't just write English, start off with the English. For each of it, the standard tells, give a header. That header is important. As far as the order of individual key audit matter, it does not give in this order, alphabetical order, etc. It leaves to the judgment of auditor, whichever I believe is more important of the three in our example. Please note it can be 4, 5, 7, whatever. Whatever I believe is most important out of the three in our example, I'll give it first, then go down. Number of key audit matters, there is no ceiling. You can give any number of key audit matters. As I told you, you have to give explanation of why you identified this key audit matter, describe it properly, and what process you have followed for you to convince yourself on this matter and what is your observation. There are some circumstances where key audit matter is not required. We have a para called para 14, where law or regulation precludes public disclosure about the matter. There can be some defense related organization and things like that where it can be precluded, or extremely rare circumstances. Word extremely rare is important. Auditor believes the adverse consequence of disclosing it is far higher than the benefit of disclosing it. For example, there is some severe litigation which you are fighting out. There's a huge litigation you are fighting out, and that litigation, if you disclose it, including as to why you got convinced that litigation will be in your favor, so which means you are automatically telling your strategy to the whole world and the other opponent also. You wouldn't like to do it. So those cases you are exempt from giving it. Circumstance where CAM is required, but no CAM will be communicated. Auditor concludes there is no CAM, or we have these exemptions which are available in para 14, which I just told, or there is only one CAM which is relating to a modified opinion. So there's a CAM, but it is leading to a modified opinion or relating to going concern. Those cases CAM will not come. You directly go and qualify the report. So we have discussed earlier, CAM will not be given where there's a disclaimer of opinion, because there is, you are basically not giving an opinion at all. So the question of CAM and all doesn't arise. Wherever there's a qualified or adverse opinion, CAM will come, but it should be a matter which is not leading to that qualification. So qualification is because of, let's say, receivable provisioning. That can be there. And CAM can be relating to a merger which has happened, can be relating to impairment. But if you are qualifying because of impairment, then CAM cannot be an impairment. So that distinction is important. And wherever you are giving as a CAM, the question of EOM or OM doesn't arise. So that will not come. And there are illustrations available in the standard as to how to report a CAM. Auditor needs to maintain documentation about the CAM which is done. So these are extracts from annual reports of key audit matters for the few Indian cases and there are a few foreign cases also. The idea of giving the CAM here is just for you to get an idea of how they are drafted. And as I said earlier, particularly given this COVID times, going concern impairment, I would encourage even for unlisted companies and private limited companies to explore the use of CAM. So thank you all for patient listening. And before I conclude, I'd just like to quote again this great gentleman. In fact, each day my respect for this man goes up. And he talks about technical excellence in the performance of functions and observance of highest in professional ethics constitutes the foundation. 1949, we are 2021, but those words are still relevant. Thank you all for patient listening. Thanks to each of you for the opportunity to participate. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay accountable. And I would also like to acknowledge from Kolkata, I have the opportunity of good friends, Sushil Goyal ji, our Honorable Vice President. And apart from